Hello and welcome to The Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2018 to 2019 series, The Freeze. The Freeze is a series written by Dan Wickline, with art by Philip Sevi, that puts a spin on the Last Man on Earth trope by giving the Last Man the ability to bring others back, even though doing so can have severe consequences. So, much as any good science fiction should, the series poses serious ethical dilemmas in the form of who should be brought back, when, and how. It strives to prompt you to examine your own life and consider just who you would bring back and what your reasons would truly be for doing so. The choices and consequences might be much greater than you would think. So let's check out what choices and consequences Wickline and Sevi's Last Man is faced with, and take this away. The comic opens with what appears to be some kind of terrorist hostage situation in a school somewhere. Right away though, things seem a little weird about it. First, there's this second group moving in on them, and they don't look like no cops to me, yo. There's also the weird blue coloring to all the students and teachers, though at first I thought that might just be to emphasize their status as not the important characters. But they also don't seem to be really reacting to the armed terrorists like they should be. This guy still looks like he's teaching class. It seems this wasn't a hostage mission, but a rescue one, as one of the group announces that he's found her, prompting a second person to touch her, bringing some warm pink into that blue. The girl, or woman, I can't really tell her age, she seems like she's a student here, and this definitely doesn't seem to be more than a high school, so I'd expect pretty young. Either way, she seems to wake up suddenly, surprised to see these people and confused about what they're even doing there. But there's no time to talk, so they shove her into a helicopter and fly off with the second group that was showing up firing at them as they go. The woman demands to know who these people are, where this storm came from, and why nobody was moving. They tell her that it's a long story, which means it's time for a flashback. The main story here is told from the perspective of one character, Ray Adams. Get it? It's called The Freeze, and his name is Ray? Like, Freeze Ray? Don't judge me. Ray is just a lonely IT guy with a sweet dog, a sickly mother, and a dead-end corporate job. At least there does seem to be one thing he likes about the job. Aw, I think Code Monkey like you. Ray gets called into some executive's office who is pissed off because his computer's not working. And I love the pretty subtle IT joke here as Ray climbs under the desk to find the issue. The computer isn't plugged in. I also love that it's this little IT joke that basically kicks off the entire story, because as Ray goes to plug in the computer, he gets an unexpectedly powerful shock, and when he stands up again, everybody is frozen. Ray wanders around the office, trying to figure out what's going on. It's not just in the office either, as he looks out the window to see devastation on the street below, but not a soul moving. But just as immediate as the first change was, things change again when Ray trips over a body he accidentally knocked over earlier and lands on his office mate Lisa, who responds to his touch and wakes up. Huh. You just happen to trip and fall and wake up the one girl you liked, and now you're the last two people on Earth? How oddly convenient for you. Lisa immediately goes around trying to wake up others in the office, but her touch doesn't seem to do anything. When she has Ray touch them, though, it does as it did for her and wakes them as well. Unfortunately, the first person they wake up is Secretary Daisy, who is pregnant, and something immediately seems to start going wrong with the pregnancy. This is kinda weird though, because when Ray entered the building, clearly in the ground floor lobby, he seemed to be having a conversation with a woman named Daisy, who, judging from her response, was pregnant. We then clearly see Ray go up an elevator and enter another office with a different secretary, but this one is also named Daisy and also pregnant? I mean, I guess that's not impossible, but probably that's just a consistency error. Ray, Lisa, and their boss, Gavin Ordway, the only people left awake, take Daisy to the hospital, where they wake Dr. Nazim and a nurse named Karen to help her. The doctor discovers that while Daisy unfroze, the baby inside of her did not. So they had to remove the baby, and as it's extremely premature, unfreezing it would have disastrous consequences. This gives us our first real taste of the potential for danger in unfreezing people, so the group agrees not to unfreeze anyone without full consensus of the rest of the group. Except for Lisa's sister, who she says she's gonna have Ray unfreeze, and there's no room for debate on this. Ordway explains that he spent the whole surgery on his phone, discovering that nobody anywhere seemed to be answering phone calls or posting on social media. Wow, he spent that whole time on his phone, and he's not even a millennial? What this tells us is that the whole world seems to be frozen, and Ray and Lisa get a taste of just what that means when they drive to go get her sister and discover a giant plane crashed into the road, due to the pilots falling frozen at the will. We skip a little ahead in time to find that they're starting a new civilization, slowly awakening one person at a time as the group deems it safe to do so, and starting only with people they feel will help keep their civilization running. This includes stuff like someone to run the power station so that they can keep the lights on and computers and cell phones running. But there are still further dangerous consequences as we learn when Ray is suddenly attacked by a crazy man with a garden hoe, calling him the Antichrist, and blaming him for the freeze. The crazy man is stopped by Lucy, who is such a good dog. Yes, you are. Oh, and I guess this guy Adam helped. Ordway, Karen, and Nazim show up and discuss what to do with the man. They don't have the resources to jail him, and that leaves either exile or death. Lisa and Ordway vote for death. Nazim and Karen vote for life, leaving the tiebreaker to Ray. He feels like their slow unfreezing of people is already too much like playing God, and he can't start taking lives now as well, so he also votes for banishment. I really like how Lisa, despite the fact that they've already shown her to be in a relationship with Ray, and the fact that Ray has already expressed his opinion that they shouldn't kill the attacker, votes for death. It really establishes that she's her own person who's willing to do her own thing and make her own choices, and I can appreciate that. I also really appreciate how her and Ray never fight about this difference of opinion. People are allowed to have different opinions. It doesn't have to be a fight. With it decided, Adam drives the crazy man out into the desert to let him go. Only he doesn't let him go. Turns out he's just as crazy, but he believes Ray is the vessel of God, not the enemy, and he stabs the attacker in the gut and leaves him dead by the roadside. Things only get crazier later that night when Lisa and her sister Maria go to a store for some supplies. Lisa realizes that one of the people from the store is missing, a girl she always noticed because of her distinctive boots. Maria dismisses the idea at first, but moments later finds the girl in the back of the store, her chest split open and her heart lying next to her on the ground, which can only mean one thing. There's more than one crazy person in this town. Also, I'm no expert, but I'm not sure those are the boots Lisa was talking about. Maria seems to agree, because we find that she spends the next day crawling around a mall, looking for signs that more people are missing. This does seem to be the case, as she does find some settled dust around some pretty distinctive footprint shapes. Ordway also already did some of his own investigating, with the help of these two men. There's Edgar, once a cop, who ended up quitting the force because he got tired of being passed over for promotion to detective because of racism. And Winston, a former Marine, now truck driver who calls out on his CB radio for anyone else out there whenever he gets into his truck. This actually becomes a bit of a recurring thing between the two that's actually an enjoyable little touch of characterization. They go out searching store by store for more bodies, but they're back before the end of the day with some devastating news. There's a full-page spread here so messed up and gruesome that I'm not going to even show it, because I don't even know where to begin censoring it. Just know that that truck, yeah, full of dead bodies. Well, okay, actually, here's a hint with a page from the back of the collected edition of artist Philip Sevy explaining his process, where he uses pictures of himself as reference images for the drawing. So, all those Philip Sevys in the truck? All dead, with their chest cavities opened and hearts taken out, just like that first lady. The Philip Sevys standing around the front, those are fine. Around this time, Ray and his new bodyguard Ben also investigate a growing cult called the Awakened, a group of people including Adam and Karen who have found religion through the events of the freeze and see Ray as the hand of God, reaching down to awaken the worthy in a kind of modern-day Noah's Ark. The Awakened manage to scare the crap out of Ben and Ray with their zombie-like cult brains, and the two men get the F out of there. But the cult isn't done with Ray, and later that night he's abducted by 3 of them. This smaller group, led by Karen, take him to the Griffith Observatory where they can do some villainous monologuing. Turns out they were the ones doing all the killings. The gasp! You mean it was the crazy cult people all along? Who could have seen that coming? Oh right, everyone. Literally everyone saw that coming. Which is why Ben and Adam are looking into their computer history to find some disturbing stuff. Which is actually not porn. It's kind of the opposite of porn, really. Turns out they've been researching the sex offenders database. It seems at one point, Karen saw Ray almost wake up someone she knew was a sex offender, and rather than tell anyone about it like a smart person would, she decided to make it her personal crusade to make sure he never was able to wake up any sex offender anywhere. Ever. Luckily for Mr. Freeze Ray, Ordway and Nazim had been plotting secret things about him pretty much straight from the beginning. and so they had secretly planted a tracker on his phone so they could find him whenever they needed to. So Ben, Winston, and Edgar show up to rescue Ray from the Crazy Three. Kieran gets shot and falls off the roof of the observatory, the one named Dominguez gets arrested by Edgar, and Whitaker straight up disappears. Maybe he was never there at all. Oh wait, yeah, he was. But the danger hasn't yet passed, as we soon learn when Lisa brings Ray to a yoga studio to wake up one of her friends. Lisa and Marie found her earlier, frozen in an unfortunate downward-facing dog pose, and being the take charge of her own life kind of woman she is, she decides to use her position with Ray to call in a favor. But when they get back to the yoga studio with him, her friend is suddenly missing, meaning whoever has been making people disappear is still out there. On top of that, as Winston and Edgar again get in the truck to do Winston's staple CB radio call, there's suddenly a voice answering back. We then jump back to the present for one last reveal, with the woman rescued at the beginning demanding to know how she fits into all this, and Ray replying, "It's because the freeze started with you, Dr. Chandler." Wait, what? Dr. Chandler? So, despite all appearances, she wasn't a student in that classroom? Huh. Unfortunately, that's all the explanation we get, because that's where this comic ends, so let's heat this up and get to the breakdown. I really enjoyed this comic. The characters were all interesting, it was definitely a different take on an end-of-the-world scenario, and like most good science fiction, attempted to confront the reader with tough philosophical decisions. I really enjoyed that the book isn't just pointless interpersonal conflict, but actually has people acting as rationally and reasonably as they can given the extraordinary circumstances they find themselves in. I also think there's so much potential here. It's a wonderful playground to get to experiment in. There's so many different ideas and storylines they could run with, and I really hope there's at least one future of the Freeze arc where we might get to see some of them. So for now, I'm giving this series a recommendation level of high. I can't help but be disappointed by how few questions get answered in this all too short series, and I look forward to seeing great things come from any future issues that may come out someday. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope thinking about the freeze can help you cool down a little from these hot summer days. Or at least seem highly appropriate for any of you out there in the southern hemisphere. I'll be back in 7 days with another indie comic. Hope to see you then, right here in the Comic Cave.